Good morning and welcome to this webinar about CodeSonar. Today we're going to talk about give an introduction to CodeSonar and also talk about the values and so on that CodeSonar brings. We will discuss a little bit about the fundamentals and give a demo of how it's working. So we will look into what static analysis is and the benefits and the fundamentals. So this webinar will be recorded and you will get a link to this afterwards. And we will have a Q&A session in the end. So please feel free to use the chat to supply questions and so on. So let's start with an introduction. So at Know-How, we are partnering with state-of-the-art tools developer that brings tools that is very efficient to develop embedded software. So my name is Joachim, and I'm responsible for the business unit managing these tools and so on. And together today, I have August that will present a little bit of CodeSonar. So welcome, August.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm August. I'm an FAE and support engineer here at Know-How, and I am responsible for the technical side of pre and post sales of, among other things, CodeSonar. So let's dive right into it. What is CodeSonar?
Yeah, CodeSonar is a static analysis tool that is developed by CodeSecure. It's formerly known as Grammatech CodeSecure. Basically, it's three things that you can do with this tool. You can detect standard deviations or compliance to code standards. You can find undefined behavior, and you can find security flaws related to undefined behavior and API and so on. So it's getting more and more important, especially with the CRA directives and so on that's coming up.
Right. And who would typically use?
I can see that we have a couple of customers online today, but mainly it's technical companies that develop embedded systems, especially in C and C++, and they use it to find flaws in the tool or in their code. So
right,
let's talk about the values.
Yeah,
what it can
sure.
bring.
So what value does CodeSonar provide? Well, you will have enhanced code quality. And what is meant by this is you will have early defect detection. And this is because as soon as you have code, you're actually able to run CodeSonar. So you don't actually have to have a functioning product or anything like that. Just as long as you have parsable code, you will be able to analyze it. And then you have coding standard compliance. For example, MISRA or AUTOSAR. And yeah, you will be able to have checkers with those, and you have actually pre-made presets and analysis report templates for those. And then you also have something like concurrency analysis, which is actually very difficult to identify with the naked eye, right?
So you mean that with CodeSonar, that is a static method, you can actually find runtime errors as well as concurrency problems and this kind of thing?
Yeah, exactly. So CodeSonar will actually evaluate every possible thread that your program can create. And if you have a concurrent program, then it will kind of cross-reference those to see how it terminates. So if you are ending up with race conditions or in a deadlock or something like that, you will be able to get those results.
Okay, very good.
Yeah, and then you will also have things like improved security posture and So what's meant by that is vulnerability detection. And with vulnerability detection, you will have security vulnerability standards that are listed in, for example, OWASP top 10 or SANS CWE 25, CEI cert, and so on. And then you also have taint analysis.
So what is that?
So taint analysis or tainted data analysis is the process of tracking external code and kind of seeing where that ends up being processed. So if you have a sensor, for example, which reads a faulty value, you will get warnings if that is processed without being checked first.
Okay, so you mean that if you have something that you sensor or a file or whatever you read and get input, and if you get, I'd say, incorrect data or invalid data or corrupt data, you can see where it's used in the program.
Exactly, and not even just where it's used, but also where possible faulty results would be used.
Okay, yeah, that's good.
Yeah, and I think probably a more popular example would be SQL injection attacks, right?
Okay.
Yeah, and then you also have binary analysis as a possible add-on, I believe, right?
Yes, yeah. You can, besides the analyze of source code, there is an add-on to CodeSonar that can also analyze binaries. So if you have not the full source code, you can check the values of the binary as well.
Yeah, and you would use a binary for some third-party libraries and such, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Then we have increased development efficiency. And what we mean by this is you will have actionable insights, which is so when a warning is presented in the CodeSonar, you will have the full scope of your execution path, and you will get annotated events for every event that leads up to your actual issue. So you will be able to track everything and fix every small step that you might have to fix.
So you basically, by just analyzing the code, you can see what's happening and why it's happening and this kind of thing. And it's also giving you insights how to manage this. Okay.
Yeah, you will also be able to peak definitions and such, but we will look at that in the demonstration a little bit later.
Okay.
Yeah, and then you have integration with development tools. So you will have integration with popular IDEs like Visual Studio and Eclipse, for example, and then also build systems like Jenkins and GitLab and GitHub. So it's really efficient to just very easy to set up your full production environment, really, with the CodeSonar included. And then the last point here is scalability. And to define that point, we should say that CodeSonar is capable of a very large analysis. So you can have hundreds of thousands of lines of code, and you will be able to do a parallel analysis, and you will be able to do incremental analysis. And what this means in the end is that once you have a foundational analysis, you will be able to keep checking the additions that you make often. So every time you make an addition, you could really do another analysis, and you would not have to kind of reanalyze your entire code base.
So basically, you just analyze the commit that you do to the source code system.
Yeah, if you'd like. But it's really flexible how you'd like to use CodeSonar.
Yeah.
And then you also have support for safety critical systems. I know that CodeSonar is pre-qualified for So,
Yeah.
right.
When you have a certain safety critical standard, you need to have a certain trust in the tool. We call it integrity level of the tool and so on. So, for instance, the automotive standard 26262 requires some pre-qualification of it or qualification of the tool, but if it's pre-qualified, it's fits for purpose. And in this case, there is an American organization called Exida that has been pre-qualified in CodeSonar for different standards and so on.
And how often do you have to renew?
I think every second year or something they do it, so quite often. And I also think where you can do some artifacts for flight standards and so on. It's a little bit different qualification scenario there, but there is a qualification kit that you can use to get a CodeSonar. So rather much support for safety critical standards and so on.
Yeah. All right. So those are the base values of using CodeSonar. Now to speak a little bit about the fundamentals of CodeSonar. CodeSonar is, of course, a static analysis tool. And what is static analysis? Well, some of you might have heard of something like program understanding or code review, which is basically just checking the state of your code. But what CodeSonar does is a static program analysis or static code analysis, which is, well, basically the same process, but it's automated. So what happens is you will, from an entry point, go through the entirety of your code and check for, vulnerabilities like bugs and coding standard violations and so on.
So I have heard the term SAST.
Yeah.
So what is that?
Exactly. So SAST is just really a subgenre of static program analysis, which is more focused on weaknesses and security vulnerabilities. So it's not necessarily just code that kind of breaks when used, but it's also code that could be faulty or could end up exploited. And so that is what that is. It's called static application security testing. Is what SAST stands for. Yeah, and I also think that it's important to note that during static analysis, you don't actually execute any of your code. So that's the static part, right? Yeah. When you have a dynamic part, it's called dynamic application security testing. And that is a different thing, but they are quite similar still. So static application security testing is what kind of white box testing. So you have access to your entire system, and you will check your application from start to finish, testing every single possible scenario that your code can do. And then you have DAST, which checks for every possible scenario in the current context. So usually this will be simulated attacks on the runtime environment.
You mentioned that you can have an early detection of errors using. Is that due to that you don't need any test cases at all?
Yeah, exactly. So you just run your code and see if there are errors. It will automatically kind of, it will not generate test cases, but it will test every possible scenario that your code can do. So in a CodeSonar, you actually have something called a data flow analysis, which also checks for every single possible value that your resources can have. So not only does it check for certain parameters, but it also checks for what these parameters actually could contain.
So how is it working in practice?
Yeah, so in practice, it works this way. You have your source code or binaries or libraries, and you insert them into your engine. So first you, of course, parse your source or your binaries. And then you have a bunch of different engines that you can use for your analysis. So you will have race analysis, which we spoke about. You will have taint analysis, which we also spoke about. I think it's important to note here the library models.
Yeah, what is that?
Yeah, so that is the fact that CodeSonar doesn't actually only analyze your source code, but it also analyzes every dependency that you have in your source code. So if you are using a third-party library, it will actually also analyze the library. So you will be able to find things that are not necessarily your fault, so to speak. Yeah, and then you also have things like language analysis, which is basically just it will check for things that you shouldn't have in production and so on. Yeah, and then it will put all of this in a database, in a PostgreSQL database, which by default is able to be accessed through a web GUI, but you can also access this through any database methods you might have used before.
So this is the database is called the hub, right?
Yeah, exactly. So in CodeSonar, it is called the hub because it contains well, all of the results, but also all of the kind of visual elements that will help you read your analysis.
Okay.
And something else that you can do is that you can use linters, which are actually shipped with CodeSonar, and they will be able to print a format called SARIF, and then import the SARIF into the database.
So SARIF, I think it stands for static analysis result interchange format.
Yes, exactly.
And that is a standard that is backed up by Microsoft and other vendors that you can just import result and or export a result from any static tool that supports this format.
Yes, that is true. And then also if you have any linters that you would like to use that don't natively support SARIF, I know that there are some open source projects, for example, for Flake 8 and such.
Okay.
Yeah, so speaking of languages, C and C++ is called the sweet spot, right?
Yeah.
So this is the main reason that you would get a program like CodeSonar. And you also have pretty major support for Java and C#. But of course, they work a little bit differently since Java and C# produce bytecode. And then, as mentioned, you also have support for some other languages, linter languages. But what these mainly do is they present your SARIF results in a more readable fashion. So yeah, C, Java, and C# is really where.
So this four languages has its their own CodeSonar analysis but the other one is more like external analyze engines.
Exactly. So CodeSonar provides a kind of readable format for the other languages, but provides an actual whole analysis for these four languages.
Okay.
Yeah. And so it's time for the practical demonstration. So let me check. Go. Let's see. All right, I think you should be able to see this. Right.
So this is I see Visual Code, right?
Yeah. So this is Visual Studio Code. I have loaded a base project up here, which contains a switch case with a random function. And as we discussed, this will mean that CodeSonar will evaluate all possible paths. So it will evaluate all of these cases. And then, of course, it's annotated here with what should be expected of the code. We will see how CodeSonar also tackles this case. So we will go ahead and create a new analysis. And I am going to do this with a script. And while it's making the analysis here, I could explain what I'm doing to kick this into action. So I'm just calling CodeSonar. I'm saying make an analysis, and then the rest of these switches are actually just information of how to really create the folder on the hub. So it's just my login and the project tree, right? And then what's important to note also is that you have the URL for your hub, because it's hosted on a web GUI, right? And then your compiler, and then your entry point file.
So this means that you're just launching CodeSonar analysis, pointing out the hub where to store the result, and then you just use your own command to build. In this case, just only GCC. But if you have a makefile or a build system, you can just build that as it is.
Yes.
No changes to the build system at all.
No, exactly. And so you don't even have to have the hub on your computer. You can have a dedicated computer for that. And then just whenever you are comfortable making an analysis, just call the command and we'll build.
Okay. Yeah.
So let's check what happened when we did this build. I think I will have to log in.
And this is the hub you're switching to?
This is the hub.
Yeah.
So the hub looks like this. You will end up in your project folder. And this is the analysis that we just did, the know-how basic analysis 12. So if we go in here, we will see all of our issues. Right, so it looks like this. You will have a lot of data here, of course. As you can see, we have a leak, we have a use after free, and we have some other errors. And these are the warnings. You can also look at the procedures that were made. And in our case, it's not very interesting. It's just the main procedure. You can also look at the files. And as you can see here, since my GCC installation is with minimalist GNU for Windows, you actually also analyze everything that is relevant to that installation. So that is why we have almost 3,000 lines of code here, even though my basic project is only 41 lines, right?
Yeah.
And so if we go back to the warnings here, you will see a bit of information here. For example, use after free, you can see which line number it is on. And I think it's important to note that if you fix this, or if you change this issue or any lines above this, this will change. The fingerprint won't change. So it actually fingerprints your the issue that was created.
So that means that if you do another analysis, it will not create a new problem. It will identify that you have already found that in the previous analysis.
Yeah, exactly. And so as you can see, I've done 12 analyses here on this project. If I go up here to switch visible warnings, I can switch this to new. So it will only show me the new warnings from this analysis. It won't show anything because I haven't changed anything, right?
Okay.
But so if I go back to analysis 1, it will show me all of this. But as soon as I go to the next, it won't. But if I go to active here, for example, you can see that in analysis 2, the first one here is 8B83, and the previous one was as well.
So the class here is some kind of type of a problem, like use after free and so on. But there are also some score.
So there's a score, which is it could be a bit difficult to decode, but what it is its criticality and also the likeliness that it will occur. So it's internal way of representing how critical a problem really is. But of course, you don't want any of these problems.
Yeah, but it is an automatic way to prioritize what to take care of.
Yes, exactly. And then you can, of course, change these as well.
Yeah.
So I think that's actually a very important point to make, that all of this information is very, very customizable. They also have some pre-made presets so that you can check, let's say, language, for example. You will be able to see that this was made in C. Yeah, but enough with that. Let's look at an actual issue. Let's look at this use after free here. So this is what your issue will end up looking at. Like, you can see here that the highlighted point is the actual issue. It says that the memory pointed to by Q was freed. And it's written to here. And that's a problem. That's a use after free. But if we click here on show all events, we will be able to actually get a full view of the context in which this is possible to happen. So you'll be able to track it from the beginning here, from the main, and then into the switch case, and so on. And if you are unsure of what all of these things do, you can click on malloc, for example. Let's see, what does malloc do? Well, you will get a little definition here, or you will get a link to the definition, and you will get a list of everything that makes a call to it. And if you click on, I want to say this one, you can actually look at your source code as well. Yeah. And then, of course, you will get a view like this for all of your problems. And it's not only the red problems, but also for things like null pointer dereferences. Of course, they are much the event.
Yep.
So,
as well. My understanding here, you can find what's going wrong and so on. But how do you manage this? Or take care of this issue and judge if it's what to do about it.
Yeah, so you have a built-in ticketing system, and then you also have support for Jira, for example, if you want to use that. But you can choose that your priority is high. You want to fix this use after free, and the state is, yeah, it's new, and the finding is that it is a true positive, and then you can assign an owner to this, and then you just click save changes, and since these issues are saved as fingerprints, they will be tracked throughout your project as well.
Yeah, this is very good, I think. But nowadays, people are using more and more continuous integration and DevOps and so on, and we would like to have the issue shown in the IDE and maybe fix it immediately. So how do you do that?
Yes, of course. You can also annotate this directly in Visual Studio Code, for example. And you do this by downloading the extension, and then you should be able to just do CodeSonar, and you should have this download SARIF entire analysis option. And we did analysis 12 just now. We'll save that. And then it will open automatically. But if you open this up, you should get the annotations as well. There we go. So you will get a kind of log that looks like this. So you'll have location, you'll have rules, you'll have logs. If you look at the rules, you will be able to find, well, for example, the use after free. You can click on that, and it will show us the event flow down here, but you will also get annotated results, which, and this is the same that we just saw in the hub. And then, of course, since this is run by command line, you can do all of this automated. For example, in a tasks JSON file. So every time you, I don't know, build your project, you could automatically make an analysis and import the latest results. And this is also very quick if you do it incrementally. But I think that we should also show what you can do with this, because you don't always have true positives. Sometimes you have false positives, and you have to prove that somehow. So you will have, by default, you don't have that many charts and tables, but you can create your own to your own liking. You can also generate reports. And these are the templates I spoke about earlier. So you will have a lot of templates, actually. You don't only have these templates, you also have presets that you can use, which will actually print more of these kind of specific problems.
So basically, you can customize CodeSonar with presets to what to analyze, and then customize the reporting, what to produce as a report. So
yes, exactly. So you can choose exactly what you want to print, and you can choose exactly what you want to include in your report.
Okay.
But since this code base isn't that large, most of these are going to be rather empty. So I'm just choosing to do an analysis report now, which will report on the current context. And if we look at the HTML report here, it looks something like this. You will get some basic information about your project. You will get some graphs and so on. So this is something that you could use in a report if you have to, for example, justify keeping an issue, but still want to be certified. And then if you do click on any of these data points, you will actually be taken to the relevant information.
Okay.
Yeah. So those are the fundamentals of how CodeSonar works in practice. So let me bring up the presentation again, and we will talk a little bit about what is new in CodeSonar 9.0, which was released this quarter. And you will have some new integrations with Docker Harbor hosted images of Docker containers. You will have modernization with some improved statistic reports, some new analysis features like improved misr analysis and more checkers for popular compliances, and then some additional compiler support and extended support for Android. Yeah. And so that's the end of the presentation, really. We're happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Yeah, I think we have got some questions in the chat. So let's go through that.
Sure.
One question is there any plan for tooling for IntelliJ and WebStorm, the JetBrains family of IDE?
Yes, I believe they are working on a solution for Sea Lion right now. I'm not sure exactly how that will look, but feel free to email me that question, and I will update you as soon as I know more from the developers.
I also heard that the integration to GitLab and so on is increasing much. So I think there could also be integrations from not direct from CodeSonar, but via GitLab as well.
Yeah, and I think it's also important to note that there are, of course, workarounds for pretty much every possible scenario. It's just that these integrations show you more exactly where your issues are.
Yeah. Is it possible to integrate the tool into Visual Studio, which is used to as a unit test environment, and get warnings similar to compiler warnings, as you can double-click the way into?
Yes. Well, you will have the annotations as we showed, but you can also do let's see, CodeSonar comes with a bunch of scripts that you can use, and one of these are the dump warnings script, which is basically all your current contextual warnings. I'm not sure exactly what you mean by double clicking.
I think also we just show VS Code today, but there is also integration with Visual Studio, and also Eclipse.
Yeah,
and this is a little bit more plugins. So here you can actually navigate to the hub as well, not only doing the download of SARIF. So it's a little bit more functionality in these tools.
Yeah, and then I think I understand better now with the double clicking. Yes, the SARIF logger actually does the little red squiggly lines. So as long as you have a way to print that in your terminal, for example, you will be able to click on those issues as well.
Yeah. There's a question. They have tried to adjust some settings several times, but we're not able to get rid of the warning. So I think that is a current customer maybe. So I suggest that you send that question to support at know-how, and we will look at that.
Yeah, we will look at that. And I think it's also important to know that the hub I use now is actually the partner demonstration hub from CodeSecure. So it's not even our hub, it's CodeSecure's hub. Yeah, we will of course look at that.
There is some question about licensing, if that requires some specific licensing to use CodeSonar as a safety compliant tool. And no, when you get CodeSonar, you buy it. The most common way you're buying it is buying it per user, per developer, and then you have unlimited way of using it in terms of code lines or build machines or whatever you do. So there's nothing specific. But if you need the qualification kit, that is an additional fee for that, for safety flight standard, so to speak.
And I believe you can also purchase lines of code, right?
Yeah, it's possible to have that as well. It's fully on-prem supported. Yes. Yes. Mainly on-prem solution.
Yeah, I think on-prem is what most people purchase, but they do also offer full SaaS.
Yeah, there is also a hybrid solution that you have the hub in the CodeSecure infrastructure, and then you have your analysis machines locally but most of our customers, especially in the military area and so on, they don't want to be connected to the internet, so it's on-premise fully supported. And there is a question also about concurrency analysis. Requires some knowledge about the RTOS being used, and yes, there is a lot of library models in the tool. So for instance, if you use FreeRTOS, they know the function, what's called, how to create a thread or allocate memories and so on.
Yeah.
And then we have a question about the Docker image. Could you explain a little bit more about that?
Is there a specific area? I mean, you can run your hub in a Docker image if you'd like. If you are alluding to the latest release, it's just that you can host your Docker container on a service called Harbor now, which I haven't heard of personally before, but maybe.
Yeah, I think we have customers that is using, for instance, Docker to build and set up their environment and so on. And so what they do is just they create a Docker container, They download the software, the toolchain, the analysis of CodeSonar. Sometimes they have a hub inside, but sometimes they have a hub outside as well. If they want to kill the container afterwards and then just keep the result.
Yeah.
And then just spin up the different environment. So CodeSonar is running on Linux or on Windows and so on. So
yeah.
you can mix it all over the time.
Yeah, I think the most common way to run CodeSonar is through a Docker container, right?
Yeah. There was some more question about restricted pipelines.
Right. Yep. I'm not sure if I fully understand this question.
Is it possible to improve the runtime of an analysis? Yeah, as August mentioned, you can use parallelization to run or distribute analysis in different machine to get run down the analysis time. But also in the latest version, especially for mystery checkers, the performance has been increased 20-30% for some issues. And I think also more and more people are using Bazel as a build system and so on. And I think they are working on parallelizing the analysis as well compared to all the parsing part, actually.
I'm also thinking the incremental analysis is actually only for C and C++. So I don't know what your code base is like. But if it's not C or C++, you can't actually do an incremental analysis.
Yeah. And then we have another question.
Yep.
As I understand it, your tool was SPA static analysis tool, but you also mentioned in the same area the SAST part. How far is your tool into providing SAST scanning?
So CodeSonar is actually labeled or marketed as a SAST tool. It's just that SPA or SCA is kind of the underlying method of analyzing code, and then SAST, of course, is, as we mentioned, more of a specialization within doing static program analysis. And I believe it's one of the best tools, of course. But how far is your tool into providing SAST scanning? Yeah, as long as you use the preset that you want to use, it will analyze it based on that preset.
If you want to have more detailed answer on that, please email August or support and so on. And if you want to try CodeSonar, we offer evaluation. So if you want to try CodeSonar on your own code base, we are happy to provide you with a license and set up with your system and start to analyze those and so on. So that's why we are here, to help you out to get the most value. I think I heard from CodeSecure that they said that they save about, their customer have said that they save about 2 days per month just using this fast detection of flaws and so on. Yeah. And I think we are running out of time here, or we're actually on time.
No, I just want to mention that there's another question now. The Danish rep, you should go, if you have a support question, go directly to the support email. If you have a sales question, then you can speak to your rep.
Yeah. So know how it is. We have people in Denmark and also in Finland. So if you just change the .se to .dk or .fe, you will reach our colleagues in Finland as well.
Yeah, but if you are unsure, just use the .se address and we will redirect you.
Yeah.
But I want to mention that if you have something that is not working, or if you are unsure that it will work, we will of course help you get it working, and we will help you kind of see if this tool is for you, or if
Yeah. So I just want to thank everyone today, and contact us if you have more questions. I think you have also a couple of current customers as well. So if you want to dig into the new version, please contact us as well.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, August.
Yes, thank you, Joachim.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.